Hey guys, it's Kate. I broke out the Winsor & Newton Cotman colors today, and I am playing around with some negative watercolor painting. So stick with me and we will experiment a little bit with an abstract watercolor background with some negative painting. Very simple and easy. Just kind of playing around with some patterns and colors. So I'm going in with a pretty limited palette today, and I'm working on New York Central watercolor paper, which is 100% cotton, and I'm just going in and having some fun with my brush. So I sprayed the back and I also got the front pretty wet. So I'm working pretty wet today, but I wanted to kind of keep the front a little bit drier in some spots so that there would be some stronger edges to some of my watercolor marks, like you can kind of see toward the middle left and stuff like that. So I wanted a little bit of a difference in texture and a little variation on the paper. So I have this sped up just a little bit so we can kind of watch the paint go down, and also I sped it up a little bit for painting over the circles. And I lost the audio, so you can't really hear any of the background noises. So if you enjoy that, usually, sorry. But I hope you're having a great day. And if you are interested in how negative painting works, this is kind of a great little exercise to get a hang for, or an idea of kind of how it happens on paper, how it works out with your watercolor paints. I do 2 layers. There are people who will do very, very complicated paintings with many layers, so you can make it very complicated. But for the purposes of this video, I'm keeping it really simple and fun with the abstracts that I really like to do. But instead of doodling this time, we're just going to play around with some shapes and negative painting. And that little paint blob in the lid, that is a Cotman color also. It's Payne's Gray, and I actually have it in a tube. My tube color has cured on there. It's one of my favorites, so I always kind of keep it in the palette and just let it dry to the lid. I really like how the contrast happens here with the dark colors, and I have kind of a neutralish palette today. I really like that burnt sienna and the yellow ochre together. It's got that really nice rich autumn color, which I really enjoyed on this, and that Payne's Gray kind of added a little bit more depth to it, and I'm going back in with some more of that burnt sienna to kind of warm it up again a little bit. And I'm leaving some of the white space there so that there's plenty of contrast. And one of the nice things about negative painting is, at least with watercolor specifically, it's so transparent. So you can kind of keep some of those nice patterns in the background even when you paint over it with a different color once it dries. So I hope that you enjoy this video and give it a try if you are a beginner or haven't tried it before. It's a lot of fun, and you can get some really interesting effects depending on the shapes, and you know, you could be painting real things if you like to paint more realistically. You can also do some patterns this way that can turn out really cool. So I'm finishing up by adding a little bit more of that color to the Payne's Gray, and I'm just really liking how it looks. The color spreads in some areas and kind of stays put in others. And the Cotman color Payne's Gray really has a nice flow to it, and you can see just, I don't know, I love how it blends with the other colors. And I like this paper too. I get it at Jerry's Artorama. Normally I use bee paper, but I have a few different kinds and I like to pull them out now and then. I'm going in with my last couple of dips of yellow ochre, and then we're going to get into our shapes. So I grabbed one of my little watercolor wells that I use, which is actually a little sauce cup. And so I'm tracing a couple of larger circles onto my paper. And so those are going to be, I'm putting the well over areas where I really like how the pattern looks, and they're kind of my favorite spots. So I'm going around my circles and painting a darker layer of the Payne's gray and blue mixture over the rest of the paper around my circles. And so I have it real time right here, and then I'll speed it up for the rest. And I just go over everything outside that pencil line. And don't worry about the pencil. If you're, especially if you're working with darker colors, it'll just pretty much disappear into the painting once you get it done. Now, one of the things that I try to do while I'm working on this is go over it pretty quickly, starting off in one corner and working my way out. That way I don't have any hard lines or weird blending going on if it dries before I can get more color on it. So I'm working fairly quickly and trying to go over my old brush strokes pretty quickly. And the interesting thing is going over with this second layer, I'm really loving how that burnt sienna is just popping right through in some of the areas. I thought it looked really beautiful, almost like a rust. And I start running out of color toward this end, but I just kind of finish it off with a little bit of extra water added so you can see how it's just a little bit lighter than the left side of the painting. And I'm just going over a couple of little areas, scrubbing out a couple little brush strokes that I saw, and I will let this dry again. And you can see that close-up of that burnt sienna, so I really loved it. So for this layer, I'm going with some smaller circles. So I grabbed actually a little roll of washi tape, and I'm tracing around that, and I'm going in different spots, and I'm kind of overlapping a little bit with my larger circles, and it's going to be kind of like they're behind them. So I'm just tracing up to the larger circle, but not going over that line. And I'm just putting those in some interesting areas. And I'm going to go in with a second blend of the Payne's gray and blue, and I'm going to go over and around all of my circles. So I'm going to go around the big ones and the smaller ones. So I'll end up with 3 different layers on here. And I accidentally painted in one of the circles. So if you're quick, you can use a paper towel and just kind of blot it off. So it was like it never happened. And so then the blue color gets a lot richer, but you can still see that really nice texture coming through from that first layer that was on there, and also a little bit of the color tint from the yellow and the burnt sienna that was underneath. But it also kind of makes the background fade, so your brightest ones will just really pop in the front. And I love this effect. And there's another one. I accidentally went over the line, so anything is fixable for sure with watercolor. And I just made sure to do my smaller circles on areas that I felt were interesting visually, and also just kind of spreading them around so I thought they looked kind of nice in the arrangement. So it's really your personal preference wherever you would want your elements to be. You could do it with leaves or shapes or patterns or really anything. I've seen some really beautiful paintings where people are doing like almost like a forest scene or something, and you can really get some deep hues of different colors. It's just, it can be a really neat technique. So I'm just finishing up my last layer in the corner, and I really liked how this one turned out with the different values and everything, and I loved the colors, and I really enjoyed doing this one. And so I've been trying to use some of my different metallics that I have to kind of figure out what my favorites are. So I grabbed my Melion palette and I'm going into the royal gold there to add some nice sparkly splashes to finish it off. And that's nice too. I end up, if you keep watching, I will let you see a close up, and it's nice and sparkly. So I really hope you enjoy these videos that I do, and I'm so glad that you joined me for these, and hopefully you're trying the techniques and just the little exercises yourself that we get to do together. So um, thank you for visiting my channel today, and if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up, and if you'd like to see more content like this, subscribe to my channel, and I put out videos every 3 days. So here's the close-up of that gold that I really liked, and I hope that you get a chance to try this out. And until next time, keep creating.